This is WFYI News Now. It's September 9th, and I'm Abriana Herron. On today's show, the Indiana Public Safety Secretary resigns less than a year after the position was created. Exodus Refugee Immigration Inc. investigated by Indiana Attorney General Todd Rokita. And a national traveling rally bringing attention to rural hospitals stops in Indiana.
So, goes into cardiac arrest or just having a stroke, the distance they have to travel is going to be the difference between life and death.
Those stories coming up. But first, an art gallery in the heart of downtown Indianapolis will close its space at the end of this month. The Long Sharp Gallery opened at the Conrad Hotel in 2012 and was host to works from well-known contemporary artists, including Pablo Picasso and Andy Warhol. A statement from the gallery says the hotel owners decided to return the space to corporate use. The art gallery is owned by Rhonda Longsharp, who says that she plans to move the collection, but, quote, I don't know where we will open our next physical space or whether that space will be in Indianapolis. The partnership between the hotel and the art gallery also supported an art program that featured rotating exhibits and an artist's ambassador project. The Long Sharp Gallery will continue to exhibit online at fine art fairs around the world. Indiana Public Safety Secretary Jennifer-Ruth has resigned less than a year after taking the newly created position. Brandon Smith reports Governor Mike Braun announced the change in leadership over the weekend.
The Public Safety Secretary position was part of Braun's state government reorganization. The cabinet post was created to oversee several agencies that include the State Department of Homeland Security, Indiana Department of Correction, State Law Enforcement Academy, Indiana Criminal Justice Institute, and State Parole Board. In an announcement on social media, Braun said he'd appointed Indiana State Police Superintendent Anthony Scott to fill the role. In a social media statement, Green said she'd been honored to serve in the position and praised Scott. The resignation fuels speculation that Green is preparing another run for Congress. The military veteran previously lost the race for Indiana's 1st congressional district in 2022, but Indiana Republicans are considering redrawing those district lines in a bid to make it easier for Republicans to win. I'm Brandon Smith at the State House.
Indiana Attorney General Todd Rokita says he is investigating Exodus Refugee Immigration Inc. for what he claims as potential labor trafficking and interfering with federal immigration enforcement. In a news release Monday, Rokita insinuated that the organization helped people evade apprehension from the U.S. Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement operation in Monroe County. The nonprofit has locations in Indianapolis and Bloomington and works to help refugees coming to and living in Indiana. In a statement, Exodus confirmed it had received the civil investigative demand from Rokita and said following review it was not justified. The nonprofit organization said, quote, we stand by our important work serving refugees, asylees, special immigrant visa holders, and other humanitarian immigrants, end quote. It also said they help victims of human trafficking, opposed to what Rokita is claiming. This is not the first time Rokita tried to investigate organizations that work or employ immigrants. Last November, Rokita tried to access information from businesses and organizations in Evansville, Logansport, and Seymour. And for our final story today. In the wake of President Donald Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill passed in July, rural hospitals across the U.S. reported the bill's cuts to Medicaid have put them on an unsustainable track that could end with permanent closure. As Thomas Ollett reports, a national traveling rally to bring attention to rural hospitals stopped in Indiana this weekend.
The motorcade for Medicaid made 4 stops on Saturday, including Winchester, Portland, and Decatur, cities with 3 of Indiana's 12 at-risk rural hospitals. The goal of the motorcade was to demonstrate the possible 100-mile trip people could be forced to make to urban hospitals if rural hospitals have to shut down. John Wessel McCoy with the Nonviolent Medicaid Army is one of the event's organizers.
So, goes into cardiac arrest or just having a stroke, the distance they have to travel is going to be the difference between life and death.
To be considered at risk of closing, a hospital needs to be in the top 10% Medicaid payer mix of rural hospitals across the country, or have experienced 3 consecutive years where expenses exceed profits. An analysis from the University of North Carolina shows there are 300 such hospitals across the U.S. I'm Thomas Ouellette.
That's all for today's episode of WFYI News Now. Our podcast is produced by Zach Bundy, with support from the news team at WFYI and public media journalists across the state. Our news director is Sarah Neal-Estes. Kendall Antron produced our music, and I'm your host, Abriana Herron. If you like today's episode, remember to subscribe and share, and follow WFYI on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube to check in on our newsroom throughout the day. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow.